So today in this very episode, we'll be talking about why are so many toppers failing at life? What is it that we are doing wrong? What is it that's happening wrong? Are we rewarding the wrong kind of skills when we all know EQ makes you successful in your life? Why do we spend a majority of our lifetime only working on our IQ?
I think it's a very relevant question that you have asked. Why is it that we have why is this outcomes for toppers? We don't see that type of outcomes, and why is it that we have to rework on the school curriculums? So I'll tell you what is the practical as a higher education teacher and professor teaching, people at the master's level. I've been an MBA teacher for a very long time, back at time Lucknow. See, the point is fundamentally the when you come to an MBA class, it is important that you participate in a discussion type of a classroom environment. And when you have to actually come and discuss issues, the point is it's no more a one-way traffic. It's not like some teacher is going to come and give a monologue, and then there'll be a test based on a certain type of a curriculum or this that. The discussion is a multi-dimensional kind of a discussion, and when people have to really work on real problems and actually come up with solutions, you require a different type of a thinking. And often what happens is the students actually have a difficulty getting to that level because they come through a certain type of schooling where the learning is quite regimented and things like that. And in most of even in preschools, what is being taught is actually discipline. There's very little emphasis on creativity, very little emphasis on actually, and when you are emphasizing adherence, that is going to come at a huge cost, and that gets reflected in the higher education classrooms. Over the years, you have actually killed the creativity in the students, and when you have to really solve the real problems, they have to actually they fall short, and they basically become very obedient workers, and things like that. So so schooling is doing a very huge I mean probably a damage in the way we are actually sort of training our students. So I think it should start from preschool itself, because preschool, the school admissions are based on how you actually went to a preschool, and then there's an admission test, and based on which the preschool actually makes people to sit. The sitting training is going to happen, and that kind of regimentation is going to have a huge implication on their minds. And even within the see, look at a teacher. A school teacher is teaching 7 hours. So this school teachers are not investing their time in coaching, mentoring, and actually tutoring. Much of it is actually outside the school. So even learning is a thing that has to be revisited.
I will address this in a slightly different way. I'm not wise enough to tell exactly what schools should be doing beyond the fact that they should do their job diligently and train the students in terms of techniques, and then allow the students to have a holistic development. We tend to arrest the development by saying that certain academic aspects are more important than the emotional aspects. I mean, it's more than well documented or well observed that emotional quotient is, I don't like the word, but the emotional overall health is more important in success than anything else. Universities are, of course, still primarily there for giving technical skills or whatever academic skills. We are changing. We are changing in terms of ensuring that there is some holistic development and things like that. But I want to say something slightly different. The question itself is, why are toppers failing in life? I would ask you to actually go back to that question. Is that question even true to some extent, in the sense that I feel that many of the toppers are actually successful. They may not be successful in the eyes of the world, that they do not make big headlines and things like that. My classmates, who graduated from IIT, not one of them is a failure. Everybody has succeeded in their this thing, but none of them are probably in headlines. Some of them are in headlines. So the success definition itself is different. But I can tell you this much: they are not just successful because of their pedigree. It is actually more to do with their life skills, which they had learned after perhaps getting all these degrees, and then age will definitely teach you those things. Um, so I would not worry too much about the fact that toppers and things like that, but I would worry about the fact that how we are doing teaching within schools and universities. We tend to be very textbook oriented. That has to change. I mean, there is no doubt about it. And then, in fact, the faculty, the way we behave within the classroom also has to change. I mean, we tend to be very technical about it, and we forget that we are human beings. So the so-called life skills cannot happen in just outside the classroom. It can happen inside the classroom. So if we focus on this overall holistic way of doing things, I don't think we will miss much. And the last thing is basically how we define our toppers themselves. We tend to be overly pedantic about how we define what a topper is. We are very hung up on ranks and grades and things like that, and we tend to give too much importance to that thing. And therefore, to me, the question of why toppers fail or in things is completely irrelevant. That's where I'm going to close my argument.
The research conducted by a Boston College professor called Karen Arnold, I think, where she typically tracked the people who graduated out of that college and what was happening to them in their lifetime. And what they could find out was all the mediocres in the classroom were far more successful than all the toppers. So the question actually becomes important when we see or look at the averages. Everyone coming out of a premier institute would have a satisfactory life, but most of the global leaders have an average GPA of 2.9.
And as per my experience since last 20 years in this sector, I had already worked with some group of institutions as a registrar, working at a job, working as a principal. I had found that most of the toppers are failed somewhere because of their expectations. Once they are toppers in their academics, then they have a lot of expectations from their career. They think everything should be there as the parameter they had decided for the successful life, and because they are toppers. So they every time think that everything should be in that parameter. And it is not possible everywhere in the real. Sometimes we feel that that is good and that is at par at the top level. But actually that is not. That is the virtual picture. So we have to be more focused and more balanced on our financial management also, our economic part also. We have lot of expectations, lot of desire, and we are trying to find out that we are going to be just like as a I have to run to that. I have to run back on that. I'm not going to chase the thing exactly. I'm not going to find out the happiness of the thing. I'm at this position, so I will move forward step by step. No, I am the topper. That means I have to be there at top sudden. So there is no shortcut in life, and there is no any jugaad technology in the life if you want to be successful in life. You have to follow the regular pattern. You have to work hard. You have to make the balance in life. You have to think what you are and what you are going to do and how will you balance in that. And the most important, how will you balance your financial and economical part? Because this is the very crucial stuff. Toppers always think that I have to be there and the package should be the 50 lakh, 1 crore, and like that. They are looking for the high package. So expectation is very good. So I think we have to be come out from this type of thinking. We have to judge ourselves. We have to think the society where we are staying and in which field we are. How can we improve ourselves in that field? What are the future prospects? What will be the position after 5 years, after 10 years? So we have to first formulate our vision work accordingly, try to maintain the balance in life, try to analyze our weakness and work accordingly. That is the point. But since there is a only one word in the mind, I am the topper. So that is a very big question mark. You have to forget that you are a topper. Everywhere you are a topper is not an identity task. So you have to consider this. Somewhere I can be failed. And if you are not failed somewhere, it means you are not going to learn.
Mentioned a very important phenomena that happens in a classroom and specifically with the toppers, which right now even has a term, which is the delayed gratification trap. Most of the students have been conditioned, and specifically the toppers get conditioned to think in a way that I come from a privilege and I command that privilege. They even want life to work with that privilege, which life typically does not. As a school, as a system rather, we are rewarding correct answers. But the problem is life only rewards useful answers. There's no correct answer in real life. Every answer is either useful or it is useless.
So, yeah, thank you once again to everyone for inviting me to share my views on the given topic. Uh, what I understand, the with experience with going to different schools all over the country, what I feel that the children are when they are small or the present generation, the parents have started they have been labeling the children as products. So product means with a child getting 95, 98, they are very high level and the MRP child is very high. So, and the child is uh, brought up and been nourished so small with that mindset. Yes, I am of a category, I belong to that level, and this is being done even by many teachers in the school. So, while doing so, the child misses out a lot of values which needs to be inculcated within him. Because when he only learns about marks, he knows about the memories, the discipline and exam strategies, but he misses out on all the value system which wants to make him the topper of the life. Students, those who have very the aptitude is not like for taking science, but she has been forced to take the subject, and then while doing so, the child is mostly misguided, the miserably misguided. And somehow this child goes to some course where the child is. That means the exposure of the child to, we would say, different avenues of life is missing. Child does not know how to face failures. A child, these toppers, if you take them to toppers, they have never been exposed to the playground. They have not been taught how to uh, handle pressure, how to handle failures. It becomes a huge. These have been getting from the parents, from the teachers, and then when time comes when they don't get that, they start feeling motivated. So the basic, the motivation is it's a false motivation which we have created, which we have just pushed the pump of the child with all this air, and once this air has been balloon, the balloon starts collapsing. So we need to understand that what we actually need to build in a child. I think the child is apart from governance, which is required, I think the child needs to be communicant, needs to learn proper communication. The life skills which we are talking about, the emotional intelligence, very, very important. The child needs to know how to take the risk. He should not depend on this before taking any decisions. It should be creativity, it should be critical thinking. So all these aspects are definitely big. So these are my thoughts on it. Thank you once
And
again.
somewhere I agree with some of the views which have been presented on this platform, but somewhere I actually disagree. So, like, we have always told all the students that what is success? Success is equal to good marks, is equal to good college, is equal to good job. So, so all the successful people, or maybe I would say all the toppers, wanted to end up with a good job with a good salary package, which actually in life it is not always possible. for everyone. So it is not, toppers are not failing because they lack in intelligence, but because we have made them to believe, to believe, or just to win the game. So exams, like we always just give that, okay, all the teachers, I would say, like from their pre-primary sections, that all right, so you have to get good marks. Parents always telling them, all the students, that you have to get scored the good marks, good grades. And then why so? Because so that they can come first in their standard. We are not teaching the life skills. We are not teaching the basic concept what they are facing in real life scenarios. So we never know, none of the teachers, like in these days also, irrespective of new education policy which has come up with the different linguistic things, but still the teachers, the parents are forcing the child to just study to get good grades. And they are, all the toppers are, I would say, not exactly all the toppers, but they are afraid of making mistakes because they just want to win every game. And the game is what? Exams. I would just give one example, like the doctors, the engineers, the one who are toppers, what they wanted to become. They wanted to become doctors, IITians, IIMs. They want to crack the exams, the GDPAs. They want to become some, get into some good college. Not they. If you'll ask them, they'll not just ask that, say that, oh, we'll just become a simple maybe teacher, or we just will be a simple businessman. No, they are just working hard to get into good colleges. Then they are just following the scripted teaching method, like teaching, like they don't hesitate to make they do hesitate in making mistakes. Up now, there is, if like someone said here, that there is no set syllabus in life. When they come out of school, they face, like if they go to IIT, IIM, they face certain things, like with their colleagues, they feel certain pressure that they are not capable of coping up with those pressures. So yes, it is on us, on a parent, it is on a teacher, it's on the school, it is about the education system, that not to make them, we have not to make them be a robot, just study, study, study. Parents are always behind. Like I have been facing these issues, like all the parents, they come up to me and they tell me that, ma'am, my student, my child marks is so low. I tell them that it's okay, marks are not going to define their future. They have to be all round, maybe the holistic approach, we have to follow that. Many education, till date also, we have been training in many schools, many teachers, and we are seeing that many teachers are still into proper on only into education, study, books, mugging up things. So I just wanted to finish on this, that we have to stop measuring child by their marks.
The topic, why are so many toppers failing in life, is a very important one, especially in today's world. First, I want to clarify something. Being a topper is not a problem. Academic excellence is wonderful. Discipline, intelligence, and hard work are valuable qualities. But the real issue is that many students are taught how to score marks, not how to live life. In many education systems, success is measured only by grades. Students grow up believing that if they get the highest marks, life will automatically reward them with happiness, confidence, success, and stability. But real life works differently. In real life, communication matters. Emotional intelligence matters. Creativity matters. Adaptability matters. Leadership matters. And most importantly, resilience. Many toppers spend years trying to avoid mistakes because they were trained to always be perfect. So when they face rejection, failure, criticism, or uncertainty later in life, they struggle emotionally. For example, a student may graduate with top grades but cannot work in team, cannot handle pressure, or becomes afraid of taking risks. Meanwhile, another student with average grades may succeed because they are confident, adaptable, emotionally strong, and willing to learn continuously. We can see this globally as well. Even companies like Google, Apple are no longer focused only on academic success when hiring. They value problem solving, teamwork, communication, and mindset. Another reason is pressure. Many toppers grow up with fear of disappointing parents, teachers, or society. Their identity becomes connected only to achievement. So if they fail once, they feel like they lost their values as a person. This is dangerous. As educators and parents, we must teach students that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." We also need to stop comparing children only by grades. A child can be brilliant in leadership, sports, arts, or communication, and these talents matter too. At school, we strongly believe education should build the whole child, not only the academic side. Students need opportunities to collaborate, play sports, participate in activities, speak confidently, solve real problems, and develop emotionally and socially. Because the goal of education is not only to create toppers. The goal is to create balanced, confident, capable human so they can succeed in life. Thank you.
We equate good marks to everything good in life. That equation is faulty. When a parent has no other way to go, no other route to, convince or persuade a student to study, they say everything that's good in life will only come out of good marks. This equation is not right. Please do not use it as a threat mechanism to alter behavior of your child. You should not be
have
doing
the
this.
education system which provides a highly structured roadmap. Now it has syllabus, it has grading rubrics, it has answer keys with some set of questions. So students know it previously that this is my syllabus, I have to go accordingly. But the thing is that life is highly chaotic. Okay, so there is no a text formula for launching a business or managing interpersonal conflicts or managing a group of people with different mindsets or negotiation skills or networking. It all builds through the experience, through the survival skills, and through emotional intelligence. Now, the average students often they thrive because they spend years of learning to survive outside that established boundaries, where toppers are under constant outer validation that and the target achievement race through a fixed path. So the thing is, now I have an open question to all specifically the education system, that if in fact our children gets less mark or somehow or sometime due to some reason, maybe some mishap in family, maybe the day was not feeling good or something, for any reason, if they fetch less mark or they carry the less marks in that particular subject or all over, will the school allow or will the institution allow to judge or to give them the identity that they are the good students? No, we all are after marks only. Marks are the main thing which we can identify a student, like okay, he is doing good, he is doing bad. But actual life, they doesn't need marks, they need all practical experience. How many schools are there in the world who takes the students in real life mining, and the students are doing mining or agriculture? We are not doing. And in a 40 minutes or 35 minutes class, it is not possible for a teacher also to take the 30 students or 40 students, and they can do that hands-on experience. So I can say that mostly the more, as we say that how many of us we give the chance the students to do the practice day-to-day household works, from where we can get lots of knowledge and lots of experience, which we can apply in the near future, which helps us to survive. So thank
Is
you
that
so
the
much.
average child learns to survive in a scenario where external validation is missing. And real life is like this. There will be validation that will be missing. You won't get out external validation. People won't be appreciating you for what you do because you're supposed to do a lot of things. And that's the real life training that happens for an average child. And this is where this question really springs up, that why are a lot of toppers failing? What is that one thing that you would do to transform the education system in a way that we have a more satisfied world ahead?
One of the things that I see, the point is, any conversation that talks about very radical change actually is quite unsustainable, in the sense that you have to uh, take a middle ground, and the system is working for us in a certain way, but it can do better. So my point is, at the school level, firstly, discipline is important, because discipline is the most important life skill needed for your entire life. You got to be disciplined, because anything requires discipline. But the point, overemphasis is the issue. So I would want to actually have a schooling system that has, maybe at least about 50% of the courses that are taught do not require any grading. So if you take out grading, what happens is actually the pressure of performance is gone. People only derive experience rather than actually get slotted into classified groups. I think that is one of the things. And in fact, in higher education, what is happening is there are courses where there is no need for any grade. It's just feedback. Okay, these are called feedback courses. So what happens is merely a conversation between an instructor and the student, or a student group, happens repeatedly, and a sort of a benchmark is set, and mostly the benchmark is coming from the students themselves, and they basically demonstrate a certain solution. Now, you talked about problem solving. The age is not about problem solving. The age is, we live in an age where solutioning is important. And, it's, merely looking at everything as a problem. You tend to forget about variables that are actually going to, haunt you later. So you have to have a very comprehensive solutioning, a skill that actually develops them to, come up with solutions. And so the that requires a different type of a thinking. It has to, a very good balance of discipline and creativity is needed from the beginning. The rules that we have created, if they are overwhelming their creativity, I think that's where the problem lies, and I think that's what I would change. Luckily, I have the good fortune to visit a few schools that are completely outside the system. For instance, the Aurobindo School. There's a Bangalore school, I think Babish or something, where actually there's no outcome for the school. Merely students go through the experience, and it is possible to actually take them to real projects. Okay, they're going to get into agriculture projects. They are going to get serious engineering projects while they're learning, and there is no outcome. Actually, people choose to get into these things, and then there is, because there is no pressure of certification. People are not chasing any grades.
First, I'm the first one to admit that the grades themselves are not a good indicator of academic excellence. Okay. we have been talking about how they indicate life success and things like that. And then, there are so many questions left in terms of success, what is definition and things like that, let alone all the questions in that regard. Academics cannot be even, come close to indicating in terms of grades. So that is where my passion is. How do I actually get rid of this notion of grades and academic performance, let alone everything else? So therefore, I do agree with Professor Vinay Kumar in the sense that we have to relook at, getting rid of certain grades and things like that. In my opinion, I know I would be really radical and say, ask the entire society to forget about grades. You at the end, what do? We train students for a couple of these aptitude tests and then pick them for interviews. If that is the case, what is the point of 4 years education? So the education has to focus on learning, and we have not been given that in some sense freedom to do that. We as vice chancellors may think we have some freedom, but that's not really true. So the employers look for grades, parents look for grade, the entire society, I think, needs to relook at it. And then it is, in some sense, not even fair to put everything on university. University's job is to train them for learning. And even that, we are not doing it with 100% success, in my opinion, because we associate academic excellence with grades completely. So I am one of those who think that radical changes are needed at this time. In fact, for various reasons for the last 20, 30 years, we've been training students. We keep saying they're not employable. They're not employable because of so many reasons. The jobs have been easier relatively compared to, say, when I was younger and things like that. And there are many, many societal reasons for these things. But it's high time we relook at it, because in some sense, AI revolution motivates us to relook at education anyway differently. And I think it's time for all of us to work together for a much radical difference in education.
Before AI, we were the most intelligent being on the face of the earth. But now we are not. We are challenged. And at this point, we have to understand whatever knowledge we can absorb, a server can absorb more. We won't be able to compete with a server. So what we did is we studied the most expensive schools in the world. Schools that charge nearly $100,000 as their tuition. Schools like Eton, LaRossi, Philip Exeter. These are the most expensive schools in the world, high schools. What are 3 or 4 things that they do that every other school is not able to do? And why do people spend so much on these schools? Look at your own life. There are only 3 things that would typically have defined your success or your comfort in your life: access, network, and opportunity. If you got these 3 things consistently, and if the level kept growing, your life is a direct correlation or a direct result of all of this. Are we able to provide these 3 in our education institutions? Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 294th episode.